All right, let's talk about Shoe Dog. First thing you need to know, this is not your typical business book. Far from it.
It's really a soul-bearing confession, a founder's journal. It's this deep meditation on obsession, on failure, and really the fragile art of building something that actually lasts. Across 2 decades and 20 chapters, Knight isn't just telling you how Nike rose to the top. He's reliving it, and he brings you along for all of it, the bruises, the breakthroughs, and all the beautiful chaos.
So how are we going to tackle this incredible story? We're going to break it down into these key phases. First, we'll look at the journal itself, then dive into that wild first decade, see how the brand was forged, and finally, look at the real cost of all that ambition. Ready? Let's jump in.
All right, let's wind the clock back to 1962. This is where it all begins, with what Phil Knight himself calls his crazy idea. Picture this. He's fresh out of Stanford, he's restless, and he writes this paper. The whole argument? That Japanese running shoes could totally disrupt the US market, which was, completely dominated by German brands at the time. And that one idea, well, it becomes his obsession.
So what does he do? He actually flies to Japan and pitches this idea to Onitsuka Tiger. And somehow, almost miraculously, they agree. The catch? He doesn't even have a company name. So he just invents Blue Ribbon Sports right there on the spot. And what's so cool about this part of the story is that it's a total masterclass in just going with your gut. Knight doesn't have some big, detailed plan. He just has a pulse, a feeling, and he decides to follow it.
And get this, the seed money for this whole thing, it wasn't some huge venture capital investment. Nope, it was a $50 loan from his dad. $50. That's literally all it took to get this whole crazy idea off the ground. Okay, so he's back in Oregon, and he's literally selling shoes out of the trunk of his Plymouth Valiant. And that's when he partners up with Bill Bowerman, his old track coach. Now, Bowerman is this guy who's just completely obsessed with improving athletic performance. He's always tinkering, trying to make a better shoe, and that leads to some huge early design breakthroughs. Meanwhile, Knight is juggling jobs, teaching, accounting, just to keep the lights on. Their relationship, Knight and Bowerman's, it's complex. It's part reverence, part rivalry, but that synergy between them, it becomes the absolute foundation of Nike's DNA.
And you can just feel the early momentum starting to build. This guy, Jeff Johnson, who is just this passionate, relentless salesman, he joins the team. He's the one who opens the first retail store, creates a customer database, he even suggests the name Nike. But here's the thing. As sales start to grow, cash flow is just a constant nightmare. So Knight has to take bigger and bigger risks with bank loans, a lot of the time just bluffing his way through. It's a hard lesson, but he learns that growth isn't some straight line up. It's messy, and it's absolutely laced with fear.
And then, of course, a major test hits them. A rival company tries to snatch the US rights for Onitsuka right out from under them. So what does Knight do? He gets on a plane, flies to Japan, and manages to secure a 3-year exclusive deal. This threat, this moment of crisis, it forces him to think bigger, faster, and way more boldly than before. You really see Knight's instinct to protect his turf kick in, and it kind of reveals this primal nature of being an entrepreneur, right? Where sometimes survival just has to trump civility.
So at the same time all this is happening, Knight's personal life is starting to solidify. He gets married to Penny Parks. But his professional life, well, that's about to face its biggest shakeup yet. The tensions with Onitsuka just keep escalating, and it forces Blue Ribbon to get ready to launch its own brand. And that brand, of course, is Nike. This is the moment. The name, the swoosh, the whole identity, it's all born right here. And just to really drive home how humble these beginnings were, a student named Carolyn Davidson designs the logo for $35. Can you believe that? So Nike isn't just a brand at this point. It's really a declaration of independence. And that swoosh, it becomes a powerful metaphor for movement, for ambition, and even for a little bit of rebellion. Okay, so that declaration of independence leads us right into the next critical era for the company. The first Nike shoes finally hit the market. And the waffle sole, Bowerman's legendary invention using his wife's waffle iron, it becomes an absolute sensation. Sales just soar. But at the same time, the legal battles with Onitsuka are just getting started.
And you have to remember who's working there. Knight's team is this collection of misfits, rebels, and true believers, and they all rally around this new brand. What's so powerful about this is that Knight's tribe, they're not polished corporate types. They're just passionate. This part of the book is really a celebration of shared purpose, completely winning out over pedigree.
But just when things are looking up, boom, crisis hits. Hard. We're in 1975 now, and Nike is facing a storm of lawsuits, massive inventory issues, and just crushing debt. This is the moment where Knight's leadership is truly put to the test.
And instead of folding, he doubles down. He just refuses to give up. But the company is absolutely teetering on the edge of collapse. Things get so bad that even his own father starts questioning the choices he's made.
And maybe most importantly, Knight starts to question himself. This is the part of the memoir where his vulnerability really comes through. He strips away the CEO persona. He's not some untouchable hero here. He's just a human being, grappling with some very real fear, fatigue, and self-doubt.
And then, just when it seems like it's all over, the breakthrough happens. Nike wins its legal battle. That Waffle soul becomes truly iconic. Endorsements start rolling in. The brand finally gets real traction. But even with all this success, Knight stays wary. He doesn't get overconfident because he's haunted by just how close they came to total collapse. And I think the big takeaway here is that success doesn't just erase insecurity. If anything, it just amplifies the stakes.
And all of this whole 2-decade struggle, leads us to the culmination of the story, going public. So in 1979, Nike officially goes public. And just like that, Phil Knight becomes a multi-millionaire. But the book makes it very clear that the journey left scars. We're talking strained relationships, immense personal sacrifices, and this lingering sense of loss. He spends a lot of time reflecting on the true cost of that ambition. So the memoir doesn't really end with a triumphant celebration. It ends with quiet introspection.
And that tone continues right into the epilogue. These final chapters are quiet. They're contemplative. He talks about mourning the tragic loss of his son, exploring philanthropy, and really wrestling with his own legacy. By this point, Nike is a global powerhouse. But Knight, he's still just a shoe dog, still obsessed, still imperfect, and still so deeply human. And that's when you realize Shoe Dog isn't really a book about Nike. It's a book about the man who built it, and the incredible emotional toll that comes with chasing greatness.
So when all is said and done, what's the big takeaway here? I think it's that Phil Knight's memoir is a really rare kind of gift. It's vulnerable, it's poetic, and it's just brutally honest. If you're a founder, a leader, or even just a storyteller, this book offers so much more than just business wisdom. It offers soul.
It's this powerful reminder that behind every massive brand, there's a beating heart. And behind every incredible success, there's always a trail of invisible scars.